This should be working. This is a new link. And this should be working. This definitely works. Hi guys, into the stream. Oops. There's me thinking, that I already tested it and it was fine, and here's it not working. But this stream is working, so if you come to this link, it should be working, hopefully. So if you can hear me, write something in the live chat. You can see the live chat if you're on the app and desktop. If you're on the mobile browser, you won't see the live chat. And feel free to write any comments and any questions in the live chat whenever you want. If you're on the desktop, you can also see on the right side, there is an information button. In the right upper corner of the screen of the video, there is an information button, and if you click it, it brings up the link to the website and a poll that just says have you, and yes and nope. So you can vote in the poll. I'm going to click on it and say yes. There's still some people on the original link that hopefully make their way to this link. So if you can hear me, write something in the live chat. I've had some microphone problems, so I'm still paranoid about my mouth moving without any sound coming out. Now I have some content that I've prepared that is split into 3 sections. One of them is revision tips, another one is science fun facts, and another one is some frequently asked questions that students have asked me in the past. But if you've got your own questions, just shoot, and I'm happy to answer those instead of this custom content. And the idea is that this would be quite useful when viewed after the live chat. But I do want it to be mainly an interactive thing. So any questions, any comments, just shoot. Obviously this is a pilot at the moment, so there won't be that many people. I can see there's 2 people watching right now. Whether these 2 people can hear me or not, I don't know, because you've not written anything in the live chat. So it is a mystery. But I'll start going through some of these things, and hopefully at some point there will be some more questions. Just checking the stream. The original link was shown as streaming, but it wasn't streaming, so I'm just reloading it to see what's going on there. Okay. It still says there's someone waiting. It's not great. Anyways, so let's do this. I made this awesome infographic with some revision tips, and there's not many, but they pack a punch, and what I love about them is that you can actually try them like straight away. Like you don't have to to make plans for it, you can just do it. I'm checking the old page again. Maybe I should write another message there. Please join new stream. This is disastrous, but not as disastrous as one would have potentially imagined. And whether or not it's going to be reasonably well put together to make any sort of sense when watching later on, I don't know. I also don't know whether the stats are actually counting myself, so I don't know whether there is an audience or not. Anyways, I'm also going to write what I just said in the chat, just for anyone joining later on. Feel free to ask or comment. And interrupt my presentation, I guess, if you will. I'm going to start with the poll. So, yes, I think some people are coming from the old link, which is great. As the live chat says, feel free to ask or comment anything at any time, because I'm going to go through some of the things that I've written down, but I will prioritize what you have to say, because I want to test how this can be interactive. And in fact, I should give a brownie point to the first person to actually use the live chat. And I mentioned before that the live chat is available on the mobile app and on desktop. So if you're in a mobile browser, you might not actually see the live chat, which is unfortunate because it's kind of a central part of this whole thing. So if you can hear me, type something in the live chat. This is what I was doing the other day when I was trying to test it and just trying to find someone to just type something in the live chat so I could see if it works, and it worked. So hopefully it works now too. What to start with, really? I start with a poll. So if you can see, this probably only works on desktop. In the upper right corner of the screen of the video, there is a info button, and if you click that, these widgets come out. One of them is the website link, one of them is a poll. So in the poll, it doesn't have a specific question, it just says, have you, yes or no. So if I can start now and ask you if you are an A-level biology student, yes or no. I know there's a pre-selected yes and no, 50% each. But if you can click that and maybe shift that to more yes or no, that might be useful. To know whether I should start with the fun facts, or with the frequently asked questions, or with the revision tips. Or you could write it in the live chat to give me a clue. Because this is a bit like a classroom. And in a classroom, I could ask you to raise your hand or nod. Whereas now, I can't see you. So it's like, I don't really know who you are. You could be a random creep that has nothing to do with A-level biology. So I could be talking about revision, but you're not interested in that. So give me a sign of life. You know, I can see, it says 3 people watching right now. So I'm thinking, who are you? It's like, you're not interacting with these things. I don't know who you are. Anyway, let me start with a fun fact. There was an article on Facebook the other day. It said something like this. The headline said, it is mathematically impossible to reverse or defeat aging. And I'm part of a really large anti-aging community on Facebook and outside of Facebook. And this is a recent headline, and it's quite funny because even the most basic education related to anti-aging matters and things like that would show you that it is not mathematically impossible to defeat aging, whatever that means. And that actually, there is an animal that's actually featured on the A-level Biologist website that is immortal, biologically immortal at least, and that is the Hydra. And there is a topic on the A-level Biologist on the Hydra digestive system and the Hydra nervous system, and yes, it does have one. And, you know, short of injury and being chopped up and frozen, it doesn't show signs of biological aging. So just this super shallow fact would be enough to prevent someone writing something that says it is mathematically impossible to defeat aging, because it's not. So, you know, I refuse to believe that there is not one comment in the live chat that is mine, because what is the point of being watched but not being talked to? You can't put me through this unless all of the audience is using a mobile. Ooh, yes, Daria. I think that's how I say your name. Let me know if it's not. What the fuck, Hydra? Yes, what the fuck, Hydra? I don't know if you know what Hydra looks like. It's just this tentacly thing, and it's actually a microorganism. So it's not big. It's actually very small. It's fantastic. It's amazing. So what I was saying before is, unless you're actually in a mobile browser where you can't see the live chat, then you should be able to use the live chat. So that's just the fun fact. I'm now going to go into a revision tip. And I mentioned that I made this really cool infographic covering 5 different revision tips, and they're not superficial. They're really tried and tested, solid, genius, wisdom-derived tips that are 100% practical and that you can do straight away. And that is going to be available on the newly developed The Biologist website that I'm currently developing. It's going to be completely revamped. It's going to have super cool features, and this will be one of them. And I can give you a little preview. Future biologist, that is it. How do you know you're a future biologist? You're gonna let nothing stop you. You're gonna let nothing get in the way. You know you're gonna get it. That usually works. That's a pretty good attitude. And what I've done with these tips is that I've given them like a cool name so that you can remember them, because they can be really abstract and wordy, but I've just really condensed them. And what I've done is I've put them in not necessarily meme form, but similar to meme form, or like Pinterest posts, where it looks really pretty and it's really enjoyable to digest, so that it doesn't feel heavy and like mentally draining. And I've given them cool names. See if you can guess. Oh, that is amazing! A virtual hug. Off topic. I just want to say that your website is brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for saying that my website is brilliant. Ego boost. I have spent like literally the last 6 months writing every single topic. Let me see which hand is which I think this one. Of every single specification. So it is absolutely fresh content. And the only reason, you can't see my finger, the only reason, well, let's just say it's just going to be even better when the website is relaunched very soon. So yeah, those are all the exam words. My finger is still in the air. It's just, yes, it is amazing. So see if you can guess what these names, what revision techniques these names refer to. So one of them is called Peekaboo. I think that's kind of easy to guess. I'm going to give you a moment, because I know there's a bit of a lag with the video, to give you a chance to try to guess what Peekaboo might be referring to. So Peekaboo essentially involves looking at a set of notes, or looking at a diagram, or looking at some content, trying to memorize it then and there, kind of in your short-term memory, and then putting it away, looking away, and writing it down again or saying it out loud or trying to replicate it immediately. And normally you have to do that a few times to actually remember everything. If you miss anything out, you have to go back and see, okay, I missed this, I've missed this. And a sort of a pro tip of how to do this even better is to try to remember everything in just one go. And it is hard, but the truth is, if you remember just like 80% of it, that is still pretty good. So, you know, push yourself really hard so that even if you don't do well, you're technically doing really well, if that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Try this one. I really like this one, and I think it's not one that I've come across frequently. I've definitely not come across people who actually do it because it's difficult, because it takes a lot of commitment. This one is called Dejavu. Peekaboo, Dejavu. One of them is called Am I Right? No, this is funny. You're going to love these. So Dejavu refers to looking at the same topic many times over a long time just before you start a new topic. So, you know, say it's Monday and I'm about to start lipids. But before I start lipids, I take 5 or 10 minutes to look at carbohydrates. Just quickly, just to kind of refresh my mind of, you know, what the main points are and what the sticking points are, and then start the next topic. And then the next week, before I'm about to start proteins, I take another 10 minutes to look at carbohydrates again, and then look at lipids again, and then start the new topic. And obviously, the two issues with this is, one, you can think that, oh, this is fresh in your head, there's no point looking at it because you know it. But the trick is that your memory will fade so subtly over the months and years that you won't notice it. So if you force yourself to look at it again, even if you think you know it, then that will solidify it. And the other thing is that you have to, you know, when you get to the end of it, you'll have like 10 or 20 topics to quickly look over, so it can actually take a long time. But you don't have to spend too much time on it, literally just glance at it, because if you do that, you might glance back, you know, to the very first topic and actually think, you know what, I've almost forgotten this point, or I've almost forgotten this, and it's so much easier than actually revising everything all over again just before exam time and feeling like you never even learned it, like you have to learn it all over again, because that's a bad feeling and you feel like you've just wasted so many months. You know, it'll just help the memory in the long run. Okay, cool, right. Again, I do have some material that I can talk about, but if you have like a question about topics, about anything, literally anything, let me know, because I would rather answer that than not. And it's so easy because, as I said, there's like so few people now, but there are going to be, because I haven't advertised this on my website because because the current website is really awkward, because the host of the website the hosting of the website is weird. But in the new one, it's going to be like really modern, so it's going to be really easy to make announcements and things like that. So this is kind of on the low right now, but once it's being advertised on the website, there will be a lot of people, and there will be a lot of comments, and there'll be a lot of questions. So this is kind of like a privileged live stream, shall we say. Right, I'm going to move on to one of the really often asked questions. Hey Rafed, glad you made it. If you've got some cool questions, I'm sure you do, let me know in the live chat. And until you do, I'm going to go into one of the frequently asked questions by people, which is, there's two really good ones. Let me just mention, one of the frequently asked questions is about practicals, experiments, common sense questions, lab questions, research, that sort of thing. And before, it was a case of just having to do it at school, just somehow to get your hands on it. I'm ready. I'm ready now. Just write it whenever, and I can see it. What I have to say to that question about practicals now is actually I have added a pretty monstrous, solid amount of content on the A-Level Biologist website. Many different experiments, even going into scientific literature, peer review, reagents, equipment. I've really gone into the meat of it. And one of the specifications that has solid coverage of that is the Scottish Higher and Scottish Advanced Higher exam board. They're just overall, the exam board in Scotland is seriously good. It is really up to date. It's really, it's by far, I would say, the best exam board out of the whole of the UK. The Scottish Higher and Scottish Advanced Higher, it is absolutely up to scratch. I can tell that it was written by someone who was probably a scientist themselves. It's really good. Another exam board that has really solid coverage of the practical stuff is the last one that I wrote, which I think is OCR. It's got two specific topics, all about practical things. And okay, I'm gonna answer Rafa's question. So question number one, it says, so there's gonna be more questions. That's fine, I love that. Question number one, what do you think about the evolution theory? That is an interesting question to be asking a biologist in a live chat. Well, if you're asking whether I think it's real, I mean, yes. It's such a broad question, honestly. Evolutionary theory is not a specific thing. It is a whole field, and whether you mean Darwinian evolution, or whether you mean natural selection, or whether you mean genes, or whether, you know, there's like a million things going on. What I would say about evolutionary theory that I think is worth thinking about, you know, actually, there is this pretty big poster on one of the UCL buildings of Darwin quoting the last paragraph of The Origin, and I have the book. Give me one moment. There we go. I will quote this paragraph because I find it amazing that Darwin was trying to say something really smart and really specific that has been misinterpreted so many times by people. So this is the paragraph. Let me indulge myself in this paragraph. Most of the time people quote just the last part of it rather than the whole paragraph, so they just quote the last sentence, which just says, "There is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers, having been originally breathed into a few forms or into one, and that, whilst this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved," which is very poetic. But what isn't being really focused on as much is literally the sentence before that, which talks about how evolution actually happens. And obviously, natural selection is what has been, you know, quoted far too much, because Darwin, in his last paragraph, explicitly says, and I think he would be horrified to know that he's been misrepresented so much. This is what he says. He says, "It is interesting to contemplate an entangled bank clothed with many plants of many kinds, with birds singing on the bushes, with various insects flitting about, and with worms crawling through the damp earth, and to reflect that these elaborately constructed forms, P.S. You're super cute. Ah, thank you. So different from each other, and dependent on each other in so complex a manner have all been produced by laws acting around us. These laws, okay, this is what he's talking about when he's talking about how evolution happens, what the mechanism is, not just natural selection. This is what he says in the last paragraph. These laws, taken in the largest sense, being growth with reproduction, inheritance, which is almost implied by reproduction, variability from the indirect and direct action of the external conditions of life, and from use and disuse. Now, if you'll know, use and disuse has been the famous mantra of Lamarck that was widely refuted with a whole giraffe example where it said, oh, the giraffe just decides to use its neck more, so therefore it has a longer neck. And of course it was mocked, but it's actually coming back into fame because genetics is showing that a lot of environmental things actually do affect genetics and the inheritance itself. A ratio of increase so high as to lead to a struggle for life, a consequence, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, the point is, it includes the effects of the environment, it includes use and disuse. It does not say, oh, natural selection is the be-all and end-all. And he would have not wanted to be misrepresented like that. Right. Whew. Let's check the other questions. So Rough Ed has a whole book of questions for me, which I'm pleased to answer. But before I do that, I really do want to cover another one of the frequently asked questions, which is to do with exams, which is how do you make sure that you know what to write in the exam for the exam questions when you know the content, you understand it, you've learnt it, but you just can't get the phrasing or the words right to get the marks. And I know how frustrating that is because I've gone through it myself in other subjects. I think biology, I was blessed with an intuition for the concepts of biology, and I was able to get the marks without much effort. But I think in other subjects, I have experienced this thing where I know the answer to the question, but for some reason the way I answer it just isn't the right way. And I think the key here, and this is a tip included in one of the exclusive, shiny, new documents that are going to become available on the new website, the trick is to train the right parts of your mind and body to work together, in the sense that if your instinct is to mentally answer the question, then what you write is almost like a random thing depending on what you're currently thinking about when you want to answer the question. It needs to be a lot more structured. It needs to be a lot more sort of premeditated, and in order to be able to do that, essentially what you need to do is just practice that environment where you are physically writing these answers as you're learning the content, so that you know how to structure them based on that. So instead of only thinking about this concept in terms of, let me tell you the story of what this means, you'll think in terms of, okay, a 2-mark questions will focus on these keywords, and a 6-mark question will focus on this context, these keywords, these causes, and this link, if that makes sense. Right, anyway, there's loads of questions there. So, question number 2 is asking, could we contain an energy like the sun in a bottle of water? I don't understand. Could we contain an energy like the sun in a bottle of water? The sun in a bottle of water? No. I don't know that. Maybe you want to rephrase that because I don't understand that. Animal Cracker Fan Club Utah says, you look like liberalism as a person. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. It's funny you should say that because I had this completely random person in the street that we got into a conversation with. It's actually, there is a video of this. Her name is Jackie, and we got into a sort of a fun argument in the street. She said, I'm this new wave of young people who can't be pinpointed. She said, you could be found in London just as well as you could be found in San Francisco. It's really funny because the next week I was actually going to San Francisco, so I was like, you're right. She was like, no one can tell your age, like anything, and I'm just like, well, I'll take that as a compliment. Let me try question number 3. Are we using R in the good of mankind? R what? Are these cryptic questions? They don't help, by the way. It's a good thing there's many questions. Let me try question number 4. There is no question number 4. What is the name of the book again? The name of the book is On the Origin of Species by means of natural selection, I think. The Origin. The ideas in the book were rejected at first because the environment was religious in a way that could not possibly allow the idea that humans are not separate from animals. Evolutionary theory and the evolution of evolutionary theory, the history of evolutionary theory and the history of science, I actually studied at university, and it's actually really interesting, really interesting, and there's so much more to it, I know I have too much, just ignore them. No, I don't want to ignore your questions, I want to answer your questions, but just phrase them. Could we contain the nuclear reaction energy in the sun in the size of a bottle of water? So what you mean is, let me get this right, you mean fusion, right? Fusion. Fission is nuclear energy, fusion is what happens in the sun. Let me know if this is wrong, by the way. Fusion, yeah. Could we contain fusion in the size of a bottle of water? You know what, I don't know. I know there's good progress being made in that direction. Whether it would take place in the size of a bottle of water, who knows? Crazy things have happened before, you know, they might as well just happen in the future. So yes, for question number 3, are we using our something in the good of mankind? What is the our? Our what? Our science? Our intelligence? Whatever it is, it looks like the sort of question where the answer would be no, but you could feel free to ask. Forgive my English. Well, it doesn't need to be forgiven, just as long as I get what you mean. It's fine. So we've just gone past half an hour, which is kind of what I was going for. I don't want it to be super lengthy, unless you want it to be super lengthy, unless you have some burning questions. I've covered some of the things that I wanted to cover, not all of them. Perhaps I should leave some to the imagination, but I think for a pilot live stream, this has actually gone pretty well. And as I said, I've not actually advertised it to the main audience on the website, and there's thousands of visitors and everything, so it's probably very different to what it would end up being like. And no, I'm pleased. Let me know if there's anything else that you want to talk about or ask, and if not, then I'm happy to conclude here, and we can have a nice evening. So I'll just review the live chat to make sure I've not missed anything. The second anonymous person, I think there were two anonymous people. The second Hey man, how's the form? How's the form? Form? My form is good. I'm in good form, if that's what you mean. I don't know. The second anonymous person that said, uh, hey, by the way, you're cute, retracted their message. And I'm just like, I don't know, am I still flattered? Am I not flattered anymore? It's like, I know it happened. I know that message happened. Oh, secret admirers. You know, sometimes I'm paranoid. I'm like, do I know this person in real life? Is someone I know stalking me? It's strange being on the internet. It is strange. Question number... Oh, our minds. Question number 3 has been explained. So, are we using our minds in the good of mankind? I love these philosophical questions. I'm not claiming to be qualified to answer such questions, frankly, and I guess no one really would be qualified because they are big questions. We are using our minds in the good of things, whether that thing is mankind. Not necessarily. I think a lot of general progress that has happened recently has not necessarily been for the good, you know? Some people are quite happy to be short-sighted, you know? As long as they get like instant gratification, it doesn't have to be a big deal for the good of everyone. And it can be too much effort for something to be good for the good of everyone. So, we just, it's kind of like a staggered shape where someone's good meets with someone else's good enough, and, it's kind of like the universe. It has its own rhythm. Are we using our minds in the good of mankind? Well, if you want to talk evolutionarily, like we did a minute ago, then by definition, yes, simply because that's just what life has been doing. In fact, an interesting thing I was thinking the other day as I watched this spider consume this fly was how, obviously it's horrific for the fly to be eaten live, but also the spider's juices are breaking down the fly's tissue and they're so close, and it almost seemed like a really intimate thing between them, and how you'd have your flesh become part of someone else's flesh, and how that's just so inherently intimate, and how the concept of life itself is not really bothered by whether the life is in the fly or in the spider. It doesn't really care, how the life happens as long as it happens. And there's so many examples of different species interacting together in a way that is very intimate, that benefits one or both. So the process of life doesn't really care how it gets there, You have some really nice processes like delicious fruit and beautiful flowers, luring in insects, and that's wonderful. But then you've got these horrific things like, things just eating each other and killing each other without even knowing, As a human, I've probably stepped on a million things and killed a load of things, and I don't really think about it, but that is life. And unless you have any more questions, I think I'm going to end on a note about life as a concept generally. If you want to ask general questions, then let me answer the most general question. I think the live stream is having a glitch. Is it back? I can't tell. I'm using some weird software that may be glitching. Hopefully not. Is it being slow or is it glitching? Okay, I think maybe I'm glitching. Okay, Rafe, that's good. Those are some good questions. But the thing I wanted to end on was the definition of life, because it's one of those questions that is, just too much for anyone, and how what I found is that in our attempt to try to define life as an object, I have a troll actually, but let me go back to the live thing. Trying to define life as an object, or as a physical body, or as a chemical, or as a species, or as a population, has failed because life is so diverse and it doesn't rely on just a specific given object that is life. Life is a process. It's a process that transcends time and space. So as a process, it's an abstraction almost. And question number 4, why did you tweet something controversial? It must be a troll because, I mean, I'm not even going to say that because that would, I wouldn't endorse that. Anyway, glad to have some answers. Could let me sleep. Well, you're welcome, and I'd love to answer some more questions next time. Yeah, I don't know what that comment is about. Probably some sort of troll. It's a bit weird to have like 4 viewers and one of them to be a troll. But that's cool. So yeah, that's all I had to say. If there are no more questions and no more comments, thank you for being an awesome audience, and see you next time. I'm still bummed that that person who said I'm cute retracted the message. It's like, you're anonymous anyway. Why also retract the message? Or was the video lagging and I did not look cute at one point, so there was no point being called cute? I'm gonna get over it. I'm good. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time, and have a wonderful evening. I'll do my signature. Bye.